Grievous in retreat. Before the battleship Malevolence could destroy an Outer Rim clone medical base, a Republic strike force, under the command of Jedi General Anakin Skywalker, crippled the warship, disabling its dreaded ion cannon. Now the Jedi relentlessly pursue the Malevolence.
Greetings, Bucketheads. Mayvar Tigar. Welcome to the 29th Battle Droid slashing episode of Mando Vision. Nargai Tom. And thank you so much for checking out this small independent Star Wars podcast. Remember, the best way to reach out to us is via social media at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert, and if possible are so inclined. And also, if you're listening on Apple iTunes, please give us those sweet, sweet, sweet 5-star reviews. They help small independent podcasts like us stand out and not get lost in the shuffle. Remember, you can also find us on, as I said, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and so many, many more. Remember, please head over to our parent website. We are part of the 3BZine network of podcasts, so head over to 3BZine.com, where you can find a link to our store envy page and buy all kinds of sweet merch, as well as links to all the shows of the 3BZine network, such as Beer Night in San Diego, the Tomcast Popcast, our pop culture-centered podcast, hosted by yours truly, and this fine Star Wars podcast that you are listening to, Mando Vision. Hey, it's a good site. We got good stuff over there. Like I said, we got the store envy page. Unfortunately, Kyber crystals out of stock. I wonder, some kind of problem with the supplier. I don't know what happened. All right. Before we get started today, there's a quick matter I wanted to address before diving into today's Clone Wars-centric episode of the show, and that is these sort of swirling rumors that are on the internet. And let's be honest, the internet is a place of swirling rumors, of unfounded statements, sourceless sites. Nobody. Everyone's heard a whisper or from the grapevine, or no one can cite a source on this stuff. But so rumors persist on the internet, and we have entire websites dedicated to spreading these rumors and helping them gain steam and momentum. And that's a dangerous game to play. But hey, you don't want to poop on anybody's party necessarily. If that's your jam, if you're into rumors, that's cool. That's fun. But I wanted to throw a little bit of cold water on a rumor that seems to be picking up a lot of momentum amongst Star Wars fans, and I didn't want to dedicate a whole episode of this show, or do a special Bantha Tracks just to sort of address this. And I'm going to share my opinion with you wonderful listeners out there, but I am definitely interested in hearing your opinion of it. Do you think I'm out of line for thinking this way? So by all means, like, feedback is 100% welcome. I can only express my opinion, and you can agree with me, you can not agree with me. It's all good here in the Mandovision family. Everyone is allowed to have a voice here, and we don't have to match on everything. We just respect each other's voices, and that's kind of the bottom line. That's how we like to do things here on Mandovision. So the rumor that I want to refer to is this sort of insinuation that Disney / Lucasfilm are hard at work trying to retcon the sequel trilogy. That would be The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. 3 movies that have we'll say divided the fan base in many regards. I know they're not my favorite Star Wars films for a variety of reasons. And one day we'll talk about that, but maybe in more depth. But still, they're Star Wars films, and so there's a certain level of enjoyment watching them, regardless of any specific issues I may have with the movies. There's always like a little moment or two of just pure joy to watch. I'm not a fan of Star Wars because I think I am entitled to something, or that I deserve something for being a fan of Star Wars. So the notion that people can get on the internet and sort of stomp their feet until they are able to affect change that they want, I find that concerning for a lot of different reasons. Mostly because I tend to view myself as a creative person, as a creator of content. Maybe you guys haven't seen all the content I've created because many of it is still stored inside my hard drive. But as someone who respects the creative process of creating a story and the sort of guts it takes to put it out there for the world to see and form their opinions of, I think we run into dangerous territory if we start allowing the reaction of, sure, a large percentage of fans are on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, all those things, and they can get very, very vocal. Um, but listening to that sort of backlash from the fans is dangerous. There are definitely things to be gleaned from fan criticism as long as it's well founded and thought out, and they can support the argument. Uh, like I said, there's plenty of arguments to be made about the sequel trilogy, but this sort of idea that Disney's going to go back in and either re-edit or rework these movies so that they are more fan appeasing, I don't know. I don't feel good about that, and it makes me very concerned. And then some of the reports here are that they've magically discovered footage that J.J. Abrams shot for The Force Awakens that has Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher before she passed. And they're going to be able to use that in some way to rework these movies to make them more fan appeasing. And I have to tell you, I think I think the rumors are complete hokum to begin with. But giving fan bases this kind of power is also a tad dangerous. And I think we're going to get a prime example of we have to be careful what we wish for come March, when Warner Brothers / DC Comics releases the Snyder Cut of Justice League. Justice League, another film, very flawed. Will Zack Snyder's cut fix that? I don't know. I don't know for sure, but obviously that the Snyder Cut came to be because of this amazing groundswell of fan desire to see it, and this sort of petitioning and billboards and the pressure applied to a studio. It was something to behold for sure. But I said I kind of caution us to be careful what we wish for. We don't know that we're getting a better version of Justice League. We're just gonna get Snyder's version, which I think we do deserve to see Snyder's version. Because the man had a family situation that caused him to leave the production, and there's also the stories that the powers that be at Warner Brothers wanted something more Marvel-like, so that's why they brought in Joss Whedon, for better or for worse. This is sort of different because we got JJ's vision, we got Rian Johnson's vision, and for better or worse, we just have to kind of deal with that. I have, in previous episodes, I have sort of addressed the main problem with the sequel trilogy, and I'm not going to go into it right now because, again, that's probably stuff for a later episode, but I want everyone to sort of take a deep breath and let's not worry about the sequel trilogy right now. It's not on our to-do list at the moment. Let's just take a deep breath. We're a year out from the last chapter, from the Rise of Skywalker, and we don't have to worry about it right now. We don't have to worry about it. We have so much positive stuff to look forward to, so much positive stuff to engage with. And that's what we want to focus on here at Mando Vision. We don't want to worry about going backwards and trying to fix things. And one of my arguments, well, I don't know if I want to say it was an argument, but one of the things I mentioned when I was discussing this on social media was back in 99, 2000, when the prequels were coming out, the fans then thought they shouldn't exist. So what would have happened if George Lucas at the time decided to listen to the fans? I mean, who knows? It's so hard to comprehend and to process this, but the old time fans did not like the prequels, okay? And there was not the social media aspect of things, so that it was just internet message boards and things like that. That's where people kind of vented about the prequels. But there's an entire generation that grew up with those prequels, and they love Star Wars because of Episode 1 and Episode 2 and Episode 3. And I certainly have my qualms with certain aspects of the prequels, but I also have no problem sitting there and watching the prequels when they're on TV, or if I'm just looking for some Star Wars stuff to watch on my Disney Plus. So, again, I think as a fan base, we have to be very careful about what we start, quote-unquote, demanding and what we want to have happen. I worry that it will be a strike against creativity, and it will just be a more heavy-handed, give the fans what they want, play it safe, don't do anything out of the box, and I think that's damaging to Star Wars. I think Star Wars needs to be pushed. I think its boundaries need to expand, and I think it needs to go in bold new directions. And you get that by having creative people come on board and kind of sort of shake up the status quo. I'm concerned that will go away if these rumors were to come to pass. And that's kind of all I have to say about it. There's also these crazy rumors that Dave Filoni himself is going to try and undo the sequel trilogy with stuff in the confines of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and these other shows that are going to be set in this era prior to The Force Awakens. I say throw cold water on all of it. Let's see what happens. Let's let it play out. If that's what comes to pass, that's what's going to pass, and we'll talk about it, on the show. We're not going to shy away from talking about controversial things within Star Wars. I just think it's sort of a dangerous position to take, to go online and try to throw your weight around as a quote unquote true Star Wars fan, because I don't think that's what a true Star Wars fan should be doing. I think we need to take our lumps. I guess is the way to look at it. Maybe you didn't like the sequel trilogy. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. It's okay. There's gonna be more Star Wars. Maybe I didn't like that sequel trilogy, but I love The Mandalorian. I'm really excited about the Book of Boba Fett. I'm really excited about Rangers of the New Republic. In other forms of media, I'm really enjoying the High Republic books that just launched. So let's get excited about what we're getting and what is good, and let's not worry about the things that maybe we don't like so much. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Maybe there is going to be some kind of giant retcon coming into fruition. But I don't think a simple reworking or re-editing of the films is going to do anything drastic to make everybody happy, especially with this magical footage they apparently have. 10 minutes of Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill together. I don't have the words for it. All right, and then one more bit of news real quick. I did want to mention that it has been in solidarity with my fellow Star Wars podcasters. I will be participating in February 7th's Star Wars Podcasting Day. I will be releasing a special episode of Mando Vision on February 7th, which I believe this year falls on a Sunday, which is also Super Bowl Sunday. So you might be busy with a Super Bowl watching event, hopefully a small event of just the people who live within your bubble. But who am I to judge? Even though I'm judging you if you do. But yes, there will be a special episode released on February 7th to show solidarity with my fellow Star Wars podcasters for Star Wars Podcasting Day. And it's going to be it'll be filed under the Bantha Tracks category, and it will be a little different than some of the other stuff we've seen. It'll be sort of a get to know me episode, and I think I'm going to loop my brother in on it, hopefully, and we'll kind of tell you guys, or we'll share with everyone listening, sort of how Star Wars affected and influenced us as kids, and why and how it became such a big deal to us, and why we sort of feel like we helped keep the torch alive, or one of many to help keep the torch alive during that period of time after 1983 and before the prequels, before even the special editions, to reinvigorate the fan base. So we'll talk about that on February 7th for Star Wars Podcasting Day. Get ready for that one. It's going to be a fun one. At least I hope it is. All right, now we're ready. Let's get into the episode proper. We're here to talk about Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Season 1, Episode 4. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
I trust you've already formulated a brilliant plan to rescue the Senator.
As a matter of fact, I have.
But do we have a plan B? Every operation needs a backup, Anakin.
I don't have a backup. Yet. But I do have a plan for getting on that ship.
Really?
The enemy's sensors are obviously damaged, so we'll sneak in behind them and dock at the emergency airlock.
That's your plan? Just fly there, land, hope they don't spot us, and walk in the door?
Basically.
Oh, brilliant. Let's get going.
Hey, alright, as I mentioned, Season 1, Episode 4, Destroy Malevolence. This is the concluding chapter of the Malevolence trilogy. It is directed by Brian Callen O'Connell, written by Stephen Melching. It originally debuted October 17th, 2008. The brief recap is Padme and C-3PO are caught in the middle of a space battle and taken captive by the droid army, led by General Grievous aboard the Malevolence. Our Jedi fortune cookie for this episode? A plan is only as good as those who see it through. We got a little taste of Anakin's plan right there as Obi-Wan offered his wry criticisms of it. And yeah, again, this is the concluding chapter. It basically picks up right where we left off with the last one, where the Republic forces led by General Kenobi are in pursuit of the Malevolence, and they plan to destroy it. One of the things I thought was interesting watching this episode, kind of looking back on it and watching, I couldn't help but think of The Last Jedi in this sort of slow pursuit of the Malevolence by these three Republic cruisers. And it there's a lot of criticism directed at Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi, and some of it rightly so. But it sort of rang funny to me that one of the big complaints was well, why didn't the Star Destroyers just destroy this fleet real quick and easy? And I guess it's just not that quick and easy. It's kind of hard to do. Now again, there are massive differences, but I couldn't help but be struck by some similarities there. So Darth Tyrannus and Emperor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, they lure Padme into a trap. And this is so that they will be able. So this plan is to stop the Republic forces from destroying the Malevolence, because they have given Padme false coordinates for a rendezvous that she's supposed to have to broker a treaty. I believe it was a member of the banking clan was going to be a traitor and come over to the Republic and give them all kinds of information. Well, instead, the coordinates that she gets from Chancellor Palpatine drop her right in the middle, or right in front of the Malevolence as it's being pursued. So a tractor beam pulls her in, and then she is taken prisoner. Well, no. Mistaken. She is captured. Her ship is captured by the Malevolence and pulled into a docking bay of the Malevolence. She's not captured at all. And as we know, Padme, quite the fighter. Quite the fighter. What I also love about this episode is, this is the series debut of Padme, but we also get the series debut of the one, the only C-3PO, voiced by Anthony Daniels, as always. And I always have a great time enjoying Anthony Daniels' performance. The man is a treasure, and it's always, I feel like it's just so, I feel like we're very lucky to still have him be C-3PO. And we talked a little bit about the sequel trilogy, and one of my the less favorable observations for the sequel trilogy is sort of the not great use of R2 and C-3PO. But hey, I got Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I got Anthony back for this, and that's pretty important to me. I really enjoy that aspect of this episode. C-3PO has always been one of my favorite characters, even though in this prequel timeline he is sort of like the zany comic relief. He gets into all kinds of crazy adventures and weird things happen to him. But that's what it is. That's here we go. But he starts off as quite the foil for Padme, as they will not surrender to the droid army, and even in her communique to to the New Republic, to Obi-Wan, to Anakin. She tells him to fight on and not to let her be a pawn of the Separatists. And it's really, it's again, we know this about Padme. She's a fighter to the very end, and she will not be manipulated or made into some kind of bargaining chip that would potentially harm the New Republic and their goals. I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, but I did want to read through our voice cast because I did already talk about some of the people. But yeah, Matt Lanter back as Anakin, James Arnold Taylor as Obi-Wan and Plo Koon. Plo Koon still making his presence felt in this Malevolence trilogy. Catherine Tabor as Padme, Matthew Wood, General Grievous, and the battle droids. Well, I don't think he's officially knighted, but he's a knight to me, so I say Sir Anthony Daniels as C-3PO, Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka, in a much smaller role this week. D. Bradley Baker as the Clone Troopers, Tom Kane as Admiral Yularen and the narrator, Corey Burton as Count Dooku, and Olivia Dabo as Luminara Undali, a Jedi Master that we will get to meet later on, and one of the Jedi that I am actually quite a big fan of, and I think they do a really nice job with her in later episodes. But we'll get to Master Luminara eventually. But she does make an appearance via hologram. She's supposed to rendezvous and reinforce Obi-Wan's fleet, and it can't happen because she's been attacked by Separatists. So she's basically radioing to convey that message. So one of the nits I have to pick about this episode, and again, it's a fine episode. I think it's an improvement from the previous week's middle chapter of the Malevolence trilogy. So we spent a lot of time on board the Malevolence, and obviously they have waylaid Padme's ship. She's on board. C-3PO's on board. We've seen the droids deploying ships in previous episodes. I specifically refer to that weird ship they used in the first chapter when they were going to find the escape pods and kind of like crushing them and ripping open the escape ports. This is the droid army. Battle droids abound. General Grievous doesn't need oxygen. Why does the Malevolence have life support systems? Why do many of the ships of the droid army have life support systems? This is something I wondered. Now I understand. We've seen before, and Count Dooku applies to this as well. We've seen these figures, humanoids that breathe oxygen on board these ships before. But I don't know. It feels like to me, if you're going to have a droid army, and you wanted to kind of, I don't know, make a more menacing looking ship, it would be something that didn't have the sort of standard starship design. Now, maybe that's just me being a little frivolous with my thoughts here, but I think they could have made some really mean-looking ships because you don't have to worry about cockpits and life support and things that make them make the droid army ships look like other ships. Not that the Malevolence isn't fairly malevolent looking with that giant maw that it has in the front there. Just a random observation I had. Maybe they, I don't know. I'm speculating. I mean, maybe they just keep the life support for when they do have their humanoid commanders on board. It just seems like a waste of resources, especially to have. I mean, maybe like huge sections of the ship should be open to vacuum or not supplied by life support. You just have like little pockets here and there, and those commanders have to stay in their chambers or on the bridge or wherever their specialty would take them. And maybe one hangar that's pumped full of life support. Just an observation. I don't know. What do y'all think? Am I nuts? Is that a crazy thought? Whew. Well, and as we said, as that clip we played to open the segment was, Anakin and Obi-Wan launch a rescue plan to get Padme, to get C-3PO, and they have to do it in a decent amount of time so that they can destroy Malevolence, as the title of the episode goes. And as our Jedi fortune cookie says, a plan is only as good as those who see it through. Anakin's plan, not great. Obi-Wan observes this, but Obi-Wan and Anakin are pretty good at follow-through. So, there you go, your Jedi fortune cookie right there in a nutshell, pretty well explained. One of the highlights of this episode, I liked the sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, kind of like the hover sled train things that get you from point A to point B on the Malevolence. I thought there were some pretty good chases in there. I liked how Anakin and Padme were sort of able to get a moment alone as they split off from Obi-Wan. which then leads into another favorite moment or another really enjoyable moment, which is Grievous versus Kenobi. We get Grievous being the one to drop the "hello there" in his creepy, weird droid voice. And then we get to see Kenobi do some badass stuff with the Force. He's great use of the Force push abilities as he pushes against the droidicas and just bowls through the surrounding forces of the droid army, knocking super battle droids and then regular battle droids right off the gangplanks that they're on. And that while Anakin and Padme go about committing sabotage against the ship and killing a fair amount of droids in the process. Anakin comes across in this episode really strong, I think, as a master of improvisation. Obviously, there's a lot going on. The original plan was just to get Padme, but they're able to, with Padme's assistance, to sabotage Malevolence from inside. And now, remember, the droids are trying to repair the hyperdrive so they can get out of the system. They're still trying to get the Malevolence away from the Republic forces and meet at a rendezvous with Count Dooku. And this is sort of the crux of Anakin's plan to fool them, to trick them, to make them believe that the hyperdrive is functioning, when in fact he's just hardwired a course and is going to crash the ship into a nearby dead moon. Again, Anakin, master of improvisation. One of the things I wanted to mention, there's a couple fun little Easter eggs in this episode. When Anakin's attempting to dock his ship. Now, remember, Anakin has the same ship that he got in Star Wars: The Clone Wars movie. He's still flying the same one. That's just an observation, just something you kind of notice. And he's attempting to dock. He says spinning's a good trick. That is a direct reference to Anakin in The Phantom Menace. He says spinning's a good trick to R2 as they're flying the Naboo starfighter against the droid army in that particular movie. You also had Plo Koon mentioning at the beginning of the episode as Anakin is rushing off to formulate a plan to rescue Senator Amidala, that Anakin's craving adventure and excitement once again. Obviously, a callback, a mention, a reference to Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back, telling Luke that adventure, excitement, a Jedi craves not these things. So obviously, we see that Anakin is sort of the antithesis of what Yoda at least expects of a Jedi Knight. This is also the chronological debut of Grievous's Belbalab 22 Starfighter. We saw it in episode 3, but chronologically speaking, this would be its first appearance, if that's important for you. So again, the sabotage is committed, the Malevolence is destroyed. Grievous, there's some interesting sort of insubordination on Grievous's part here, as Dooku is constantly hounding him, like, where is the Malevolence? Why have you not made it to the rendezvous point? Do not just let this ship be destroyed, kind of stuff. And Grievous just sort of turns off his communicator. It's very Grievous, or I'm sorry, Sidious, Jesus. Tyrannus, not a huge fan of that. So that's basically the episode. It's a pretty action-packed episode. Some fun stuff. Some of the stuff is a little reminiscent of the droid factory on episode 2. It's kind of video gamey the way they're riding around on those kind of like hover trains back and forth across the stations, across the platform. I also enjoyed Obi-Wan attempting to use the Force to bring C-3PO to him, and then C-3PO getting hit by one of these hover trains. So again, C-3PO kind of gets used to comic effect, but it's still really enjoyable. And then obviously when C-3PO links up with R2, and you kind of have like the classic duo reunited for this episode. Again, more fun ensues. It's a solid episode. I think it closes out this chapter, this episode really strongly, and that's why I rated it. Well, I wrote down 6.5, but now the more I talk about it, I think I want to give it like higher than that. But it's not quite a 7, and since I'm not doing crazy numbers like 6.8s or anything like that, we'll stick with 6.5. We'll round down a little bit, unfortunately. But a solid episode, better than I think the middle chapter. And I like the way this highlights Anakin and Obi-Wan and their sort of dueling Jedi knighthood with these, both getting to showcase their skills, but in very, very different ways. And I sort of like the way that Obi-Wan, the sort of older, wiser Jedi, willingly goes along with Anakin's more unorthodox plans, because I think Obi-Wan knows that, it may not be the most effective plan in the moment, but Anakin is also a very in the moment kind of person, and he will adapt and adjust. And Obi-Wan is there to support and help see it all through, and see that the plan, no matter how ludicrous, is brought to completion successfully. So I really enjoy these kind of episodes where we see that bond between the two of them, the two Jedi Knights, former master and apprentice, but now very much equals. This is like the sort of the bonding of the brotherhood. That's where this episode I think really excels, and I think it was one of my favorite parts of it. But there's enough in here too for the other stuff. We see that relationship between Padme and Anakin, and the little moments they take for themselves here and there. Still trying to be discreet, but Anakin, very emotional up front, and why the Jedi haven't figured out that he obviously has something going on with Padme is still a bit of a baffler for me. But again, that's something to be explored more as the season and as these episodes play out. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with a 6.5 buckets on this episode. 6.5 lightsabers because it is more maybe Jedi centric. But yeah, a solid episode. I think it concludes the trilogy, this Malevolence trilogy, really nicely, and again is an improvement over the last episode. So good stuff here, and I hope you guys are I keep saying guys, but I hope you all are keeping up, watching the shows as we kind of go through them, or perhaps you're going back and watching them after you listen to these episodes. That's what it's all about. That's where the fun comes in, right?
Hello there.
You see, there it is. I just had to get that in there for y'all to listen to. So funny. That it made me chuckle. I can't help it. But hey, that's it. That's the episode. I want to thank you all so much for listening to another installment of our Star Wars: The Clone Wars Revisited, our sort of breakdowns, our sort of junior analysis that we're giving. We're in these early episodes where there's not a lot of deep analysis to get into. We're not into sort of Jedi mythology and Force mythology just yet, and we're definitely not into the Mandalorian mythology yet. But we're getting there. We're easing our way in. Remember, this season 1 is very introductory, and we'll get to some more complex Star Wars mythology soon, fairly soon. Next week, we'll be back with another exciting installment. I'm really looking forward to this episode. We're doing episode 5. It's Rookies. It is a clone-focused episode, and I am a big fan of the clone-focused episodes, and we'll talk more about that when the time gets here. So I want to thank you all so much for listening. It means so much to me that you are taking the time. You're enjoying the show. You're telling your friends, family, enemies, loved ones, hated ones, dark ones. And by dark ones, I mean the Dark Jedi, the Dark Sith Lords, all of it. Tell everyone about this show and how much fun we're having and how much fun you're having listening to the show. So I hope you didn't mind my little ramble at the beginning of the episode. But otherwise, things are good in the Star Wars universe, and that's where we like to keep them. So again, I'll be back to talking to you all very, very soon. And as we say on the podcast, as we close out the podcast, we say what we always say. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.